Now, last week's rate rise by the Reserve Bank, the 12th since May 2022, has increased Australia's chances of a recession. We're hearing that from analysts today. There's also a growing pressure put on here on the government as the cost of living increases. Joining me now to discuss this is Judo Bank's Chief Economic Advisor, Warren Hogan. Warren, thank you so much for your time today. Now, there's been a bit of a dispute between the RBA and the federal government about the impact of wage rises and whether these are inflationary. The RBA's position is that wage rises of around 4% are fine if there is some sort of improvement in productivity growth. The government is saying that wage rises are not impacting on inflation. What's your view on this?
Look, I think the real issue here is that wage rises of 4% are sustainable with 1% productivity, but at the moment productivity is going backwards. So that's putting all the pressure on inflation now and on the RBA right now. But the real issue is that wages look like they're going above 4%. The Fair Work Commission's decision was 8.6% for minimum wage and it's 5.75% for the other 20% of award workers. So that's a signal to the rest of the workforce. So, look, I think there's a real risk here that wages across the economy start sort of heading towards 5%. And of course, that's going to continue to make the RBA's job very difficult and of course continue to put upward pressure on interest rates.
On rates to keep lifting, we've already seen 12 consecutive rate rise. Look, we saw AMP Chief Economist Shane Oliver give a prediction that a recession in Australia in the second half of this year is now 50-50. What do you think?
Look, I think there's a very high probability, 50-50 sounds fine, maybe even higher, that we'll get a technical recession. This economy's got to slow. That's what the Reserve Bank's doing. The government's not helping much. They're actually putting money into the economy, but the RBA has lifted rates a lot, 400 basis points, 4 percentage points in a year. That's the most we've seen in a generation. The economy will slow and it has to get rid of this inflation. We be very lucky if we don't have a technical recession. And that's just simply that definition of 2 negative quarters of GDP in a row.
Yeah.
But that might be mild. That might be the best we can hope for, because that will just be short-lived and we'll recover in late 24 and into 25. The real worry for me is that these wage momentum continues, that rates have to continue to go up into next year. And of course, it's not a mild recession, it's a deep recession. And that's later next year or even in 2025. And that's of course what the RBA is trying to manage right now. And that's why I think the move last week actually gave us our best chance of slowing the economy sooner, but also having a milder downturn. So there's a lot of uncertainty around this, but we're going to have a slowdown, and whether it's a mild technical recession, I don't think is the point. What we're avoiding is the bad recession.
The deeper recession, yeah. What do you think about Phil Lowe's future? Because the government is clearly not going to keep him on when his term expires in the next month or two. But whoever replaces him, we're still going to have a very tough set of economic circumstances, and the RBA will still, in all likelihood, have to raise rates a couple more times this year.
Yeah, well, I think the governor's probably going to get one more in before he goes. And the question is, who wants the job? It's the worst possible job you could imagine. You're coming in at the worst time when you're raising rates, when everyone is, negative and on your back, the media, the politicians. So who wants the job? And if you bring in an outsider, it's sort of like bringing an army reservist straight into the front line. I mean, I think it's risky to replace Phil Lowe because he has the experience, he's battle hardened, and right now is when central bankers earn their money. What they're trying to do is raise rates, but not more than they have to get the slowdown in the economy, to get the inflation down. If they don't do enough, the economy gets away from us and we have to raise rates a lot more. That's the recession that we don't want to have. And of course, if they do too much, they have unnecessary pain in the economy. So
just looking at what the government can do, because the RBA's only lever, obviously, is raising rates. Apart from productivity growth, which is a longer-term proposition, what could the Treasurer be doing right now to try and avoid us going into that deeper recession? Well,
I've been saying since their first budget in October last year, they need to tighten fiscal policy. They need to literally cut back on government spending and get that budget surplus even bigger right now. I don't think anyone will argue with providing support to the most vulnerable, but they need to more than set that with cuts elsewhere. For example, why not an efficiency dividend across the public service? Anyone who loses their job in the public sector right now, there's more than enough jobs in the private sector. So I'd argue that they didn't cut back on fiscal policy enough. And of course, I think right now it's dangerous to be egging on wage increases too much, because in the end, whether rates go up a little bit more or they go up above 5% in the next 12 months, I think is all going to be about wages. And if the government seem to be supporting wages growth that takes interest rates up to 5.5% and creates that recession, that's their political problem.
All right, Warren Hogan, thank you very much for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry.